again. I'm Kenny, and today session we are going to continue with the C++, but we are going to look at the objectives for today, which I'll be introducing you to the C++ type. You'll be learning the fundamental types such as the booleans, the character types, the integer, the floating point, the void, and sizes. We also look at I'll introduce you to declarations. You learn the structure of declarations and declaring multiple names, scope, and initialization, how to initialize them. So data types refers to the various forms data can be represented in language. Example include integer, float, boolean, and float boolean. You can also have the chart and the character. Yes. So categories of data types. So we have integral types, which contains the integer, the character, and then the boolean. We have integral and floating point types are called the arithmetic types. We have the enumeration and the classes are called user-defined types. The fundamental types, we have pointers and reference are all called inbuilt types. So datasets specify the range of values a data type is composed of. Each data type has its datasets. So datasets. So integer contains whole numbers. It contains whole numbers. Then we have the floating point, which is the float. It contains decimal numbers with single precision. The double, contains decimal numbers with double precisions. We have the character, which contains letters, numbers, symbols. The boolean, which for true and false, strings, the combination of characters. Now we are done with the data sets. Let's look at data size. So data size specifies the amount of memory data is allocated in a data type. Each data type has a data size. Using size of keyword determine the size of fundamental data types. So data types, data size, we have the integer uses 4 bytes, the float uses 4, the double uses 8, the character uses 1, the boolean uses 1, string uses 32 bytes. You have to take note of this. Yes, when you have to take note of this. So this is an example of the integer type, which are whole numbers. And for integer type, when the number is a positive, we don't add a plus to it, or we don't put any plus in front of it, and we don't use comma. And for the commas, we use the comma to separate items in a list. Yes. So this is an example. Now let's take a look at the floating point types. So it has 3 types. We have the float and double. The float is single position, the double is double position, and we have the long double is extended position. So we have the floats, which is the single position. We have the double, and then we have the long double, which is, if you are able to tell, you can see that it's going to be a long one. Yes. Now let's look at the boolean types. A boolean is used to express results of logical operations. It is also known as bool, It has two values, true and false. True represents 1, false represents 0. So you have, so if we take a look at this, it's raining equals true, and in computer language is 1, which is true. Now let's go to character types. The smallest integral data type. Each character is enclosed in single quotes. Some of the values belongs to chart data types. Chart data types are, we have the A in single quotes, and then numbers, which we can see numbers, and we can see some operators, in which we have the asterisk, the plus, the dollar sign, and then so on. So you can also have a blank space in the character, and this is written, so it is written, you just bring a single quotation, a single quotation without nothing in between. Yes. Now here's an example of the character types. So you have the short form with the chart, gender equals M. When we see chart, that means the character. String types. Let's look at string types. Programmers define types. So programmer define types supplied in standard library. Sequence of zeros or more characters, enclosed in double quotation marks. So here's an example of the string type, which enclosed in double quotations. Now let's look at the void. So void signifies absence of information. Syntactically a fundamental data type. It can be used only as part of a more complicated type, mostly used in fractions. So yes, a void type. As you can see, we are going to also look at the signed and the unsigned. So both are type modifiers. So signed has both positive and negative values, and the unsigned only represents non-negative values. So signed on types. So the signed, it has both positive and negative, as you can see. Yes. And then the unsigned is only represents non-negative values. We have other fundamental types. We have the short, long, and the long. So the short has 2 bytes, the long has 4 bytes, and the long has 8 bytes. Composite types. We have pointers, we have arrays, reference type. And we say user-defined types. They are data structured in classes. Declaring multiple names. It is used to declare several names in a single declaration. The declaration uses comma for separation, mostly done for similar data types. So when you are declaring multiple names, we can use the comma to separate them. So as you can see in the red, we have the int x or int x, and then we have the int y. But when you look at the blue line, we are using comma to separate them. Yes. Now let's look at the scope. We have the local scope, the global scope, the class scope, the namespace scope, statement scope, and we are are going to look at the local scope and then the global scope. So here's an example of the global and the local scope. So for declaration, to declare an identifier which the name must be declared before being used in C++ program. Inform the compiler what kind of entity the identifier refers to. So we have the chat and then we have the ch. We all know that the chat is the data type and the ch is the name, so that's the identifier. So we are trying to declare something, or we want to declare something. We have the string s, and then we also have the int count, which equals 1. So over here we have declared that in the int count, or the name called count, there's a value in which has 1, and the same for here. So this is how we declare. And now let's look at the initialization. So initialization determines the initial values of an object. It can be used to modify values, and initialization can be used one of 4 synthetic types. So as you can see, we have initialized a value over there. When we look down here, we have int h, and has a value of 25, and then the chat gender, which also been initialized or has something within it. So this is what I have for you today, and I'll see you in my next